Hi everyone, Dr. Wang here. Today I want to talk about this question. How much water should you drink in a day? Now, I actually get asked this question a lot, both in the clinic and also in the hospital. It's a question with a superficial answer at first, but if you dive deep into it, it's actually very fascinating. It gets very complicated very quickly. So, forewarning here, uh, everything I talk about in this video is only applicable if you don't have any other medical problems where you need to restrict water, such as heart, liver, or kidney problems, or if you're on medications like diuretics that are intentionally meant to remove water. If you have any medical problems, then none of this video really applies to you. So in medicine, maintenance fluids is actually very straightforward, at least in the hospital environment, and that is 20 cc's of water per kilogram of body weight. That is how much you need per day, and this is kind of the general rule across most medical literature, and it's what we use as a good starting point. But in the real world, things aren't so simple because even though this is the calculated maintenance fluids that most people agree upon, it doesn't take into account things like people's current hydration status or ongoing active problems. For example, if you have a huge burn, then obviously you're going to be losing a lot more water and you're going to be needing a lot more water. Or if you're really dehydrated, obviously you need more than just your maintenance fluids. This maintenance fluids also doesn't take into account the fluids that you get through food. For example, if you ate a big watermelon, then the water in the watermelon also counts towards this baseline maintenance fluids that you need. So let's talk about some common reasons for a healthy person to need different amounts of water. And the big one is water for thermal regulation, basically sweating. Other causes of water loss is through excretion, so that's like urine, feces, and the other one is evaporation. Evaporation in the sense that it's not used for temperature regulation, and that it's mainly through your respiratory tract. Your lungs are actually a massive surface area. The other side of the coin of water loss are actually causes of water gain. Aside from drinking water, actually there is quite a bit of water in food. For example, like in fresh meats, they can be up to half of their weight in water. And obviously, fruits and vegetables, these things can have quite a bit of water as well. And something that people don't really mention is metabolism can create water. For example, if your body breaks down a gram of fat, that actually gives you 1 cc of water. You get 0.4 cc's per gram of protein and 0.6 cc's per gram of carb. And when I say you get this water for this nutrition, I mean the process of your body breaking it down and using it up, not the process of eating it. For example, if you lose or burn up a kilo of fat from your body, that translates into a liter of water. So in reality, this doesn't actually contribute too much of how much water you need, but it is still an interesting fact. So, how do you know if you've had enough water? How do you know your hydration status? Something that people talk a lot about is by looking at the color of your urine and how much urine you make. There is some truth to this, but it's also not that straightforward. So, urine color and volume are not necessarily good indicators. And this is because your color of your urine and the volume of the urine you make can be affected by a lot of different things, from foods you eat, the supplements you take, and of course the medications you take. But the truth is in the medical environment where you get detailed urine microscopy and urine studies, that actually does become a very good indicator of hydration status. For example, the specific gravity on a good urine study will give you a good indicator of what your hydration status is, as well as they see things like hyaline cast in your urine on the microscopy studies. That could mean that you're dehydrated. Another common question is, can you drink too much? And the obvious answer is yes, but the problems with it isn't technically from the water volume itself, because if you're healthy and you have good organs, especially good kidneys, controlling the blood volume isn't a problem. Your body will be able to readily get rid of the excess water. However, the problem is in the process of losing the excess water, you also lose a lot of salt. In the body, salt and water generally follow each other. So what you end up with is a problem of electrolyte derangements. Your body usually has mechanisms for this to protect you from drinking too much. The most immediate and direct one is nausea. If you try and drink a lot of water really fast, you'll get nauseous and that'll stop you. It could even make you vomit the water back up. And on the flip side, getting nauseous and vomiting can actually dehydrate you and worsen your electrolytes further. So you drink more and it messes up your electrolytes, then you get nauseous and vomiting. That can also mess up your electrolytes. The picture can get complicated quickly. There are also tons of other symptoms you get from electrolyte derangement, but they're quite non-specific. Things like cramps, weakness, headaches, fatigue. It can be tricky to delineate what's causing what. That said, there are tons of reasons you could have messed up electrolytes, and that not necessarily just from drinking too much water. Things get complicated and muddied, and people can get into problems, especially when they start misinterpreting their own bodily feedback mechanisms. For example, something called psychogenic polydipsia, which is a very real thing. That's where drinking water becomes a psychological problem for people. So, how much should you actually drink? And the best guidance for that is actually reasonably straightforward. Just drink until you're no longer thirsty. If you don't overthink it, this is actually a reasonably straightforward way to go about things. Your body has a ton of sensors to let you know when you should or shouldn't drink more. The main mechanisms are blood pressure and plasma osmolarity. Your body can keep track of your electrolytes and your sodium levels. Another way to stay well hydrated is to try drinking when you're hungry. For a lot of people, it can actually get confusing to them, the sensation of thirst versus hunger. For example, when you're between meals, try drinking some water. Which brings us to another good time to drink, is drink when you're eating. It'll help your body delineate if what you're feeling is thirst or hunger, and you can get them both satisfied together, and it could stop you from overeating. So, with all that said, in summary, how much water should you drink a day? So, things get complicated pretty quickly, but at the end of the day, just drink until you're no longer thirsty. Drink some water when you're hungry between meals. Drink some water while you're eating. And if you're not thirsty or hungry, you probably don't need to drink any extra water. Thanks for listening today. New videos every Saturday.